Yeah, sure. I think, um, are you having anyone else on this AMA at this point? If not, maybe we could kickstart so we don't rush into everything. We can take our time for the day.
Yeah, for sure. From my side, it's just me at the moment. Majority of the team, if not all of the team, must be sleeping at the moment in West Coast. So that's it for me.
Okay. So we're gonna start with our usuals. I'm gonna introduce my partner. There's Jared with me. He's actually beside me. So if you see when you go live, if I look on the left or right, whichever it is, you can see him. It's because we're side by side each other right now. We have shifted rooms and upgraded our setup so we don't look so non-gamer like. So we are going deep into the
For sure.
spending. Yeah. So maybe Jared would like to introduce himself. I've been speaking for a while now. Time to hear him.
That's good.
Yeah, so my name's Jared. I am head of partnerships with Promisphere. It's been a great couple of months. Interesting events are happening right now in the market. Uh, but yeah, life goes on, and GameFi will probably prevail, hopefully.
Well, that sounded interesting. Okay. Okay, Meta Mafia, tell us about yourself, man. Since today you're the star of the show.
Yeah, right. It's all of us. Well, thanks for having me here. Really appreciate it. I know we've had a lot of conversations before getting this set up, and I'm really excited what Prominence is doing and what Prominence and Mobland can do together. Well, I'm Meta Mafia, but my actual name is Dev. Um, Currently leading all things ops in Mobland and Superpower, but just not doing ops. Pretty much jump into every role wherever help is needed, from product to design to ops, marketing. Pretty much one of their earliest members in Mobland, along with Roy, Mr. Wick, and Frankie. All four of us started Mobland pretty much at the same time. And here we are. I'm excited to be joining you guys for the AMA and discuss all things GameFi 2.0 and everything beyond that.
Cool. I see we have on the agenda quite a few things, but before we go into that, maybe you could hear more about like how Mobland even started in the first place. I think one of those interesting stories, especially for any company, is like what gave the vision, how do you get your inspiration around it, what caused this whole movement. And I think that it's something that the viewers want to hear because the founders' aspirations are always interesting and very inspiring to hear. I think we would like to hear that from the Mobland team as well.
For sure. No, I'm happy to discuss that. Um, well, before we go into the infra and why we're building the infra that we have laid out and been building on, the inspiration for the narrative of the game is the Mafia metaverse. For the longest time, when we discussed with the team, we wanted, of course, everybody strives to create something fun and sticky. But really, for us, it was a general consensus in the team, not even while designing the game, but much ahead in our previous ventures together that we, majority of my core team has worked together in different foundations. But like the Mafia theme is an evergreen theme that's, um, pretty much everyone around the world is aware of it. It could be any decade, it could be any location in the world, it could be any country. People are familiar with the Mafia, and we're like, we could really take this to the next level, and build a whole theme of the Mafia metaverse around it, and really mimic the real world functionalities, the little that we know about it, and all what we read online, and
Oops.
bring.
Yeah, you're saying go on.
I think we lost him there for a second.
Oh. Did the internet police came and catch the mafia? Oh, Dev, are you here? Oh no. Let's see. Troubleshooting.
We can definitely bring a lot of characteristics from the real world narratives on chain without facing all the hypocrisy and all the difficulties that you would face in the real world. So I think people will really enjoy the concept of what we're building here.
Okay, so I'm gonna be honest with you. For like a good 30 seconds, we lost you right there.
Yeah.
Oh, damn. Okay, where did we cut off?
Okay, you got cut off, and we suspected that you got raided by the internet police when you said no, we are doing and trying to replicating the real world mafia, and then you got cut off from that moment.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So let me backtrack. So we're just saying, we just wanted to mimic the, real world narrative and bring it on chain because we just wanted everyone to have a lot of fun. I think it's good to be bad, and I think we all agree with that. And it's a lot easier to do it fictionally in video games than do it in the real world because you definitely don't want to do that. And I think as a whole ecosystem that we're building, instead of it's not just a game, it's a whole metaverse concept. The Mafia theme is very scalable because we can definitely go from Mafia A to Mafia B to Mafia C in different geolocations. We can have different factions, different gangs. So as a theme and as a concept for the metaverse, it's a very scalable one. But at the same time, Mobland is the Mafia metaverse, but we have a lot of additional modules that will come in that potentially won't be just Mafia like, and you will see a whole blend of Mafia theme building into a whole alien theme and a whole different theme that will blend in together. And I think this is where the metaverse gets very, very fun, very, very interesting, and we can bend the rules on in the narrative.
Right. Okay. So I like the idea. So I mean, the whole scene of like how GameFi and Web3 started was more of a renegade team, right? Rebels were going against the main system sometimes in that sense. And I think you've managed to capture the community quite well. A lot of the people in the space right now are looking for like the rebels, the other side, the vigilantes, that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
excites us, honestly. I think you're the first one. I mean, you are the first one actually that is ever have to have that kind of branding. In fact, I think you have one of a very interesting collaborator with you. Maybe we can share more about that later.
For
I'm
sure.
sure you know who it is as well, right?
Yeah, we've actually
Um,
had quite a few, but there's one recently that everyone's pretty excited about. So yeah,
Yeah,
yes,
yeah, for sure.
it is huge. It is huge. We will get to that later. You're gonna spill some beans here tonight.
for sure, for sure.
Yeah. So I think we have quite a bit of questions to run through. I think from the community as well, we've compiled some questions. I think
Sure,
Jared has some questions. Maybe Jared would like to shoot first because I've been asking a lot actually.
sure. Let's do it.
Yeah, so just going straight into kind of how the game plays. I understand it's a mafia themed game. You called it action adventure role playing game, where you can kind of build a syndicate and different various assets like buildings. You can control districts. I know I saw a trailer of kind of capturing Shibuya district in Japan. That's pretty
Yeah, yeah,
cool.
yeah.
And this whole farming weed and I mean
Yeah.
it's what's not to love. Maybe you can speak a bit more about how the game plays and what the experience is like.
Sure. So Mobland is a car battler, but what we are starting with at this point in this phase is the game fi of the whole Mobland economy, and then that game fi will lead into the PvP PvE gameplay, which is the actual full guns, blazing battles. Um, and what we're building here, especially along with the GameFi 2.0, is we're not just focusing on a game. It's more we were building a whole. We call it the layer 3. We want it to be, you know, build infrastructure that Mobland and additional modules in a Mobland's ecosystem can participate. We're forming alliances with a lot of other projects and games in the space that will also use a lot of the infrastructure that we're building. So
Mm,
to make it, a lot more friction free and make user onboarding a lot easier, we always discuss that we don't want to tap into different ecosystems and try pull or attract users from one chain to another.
mm,
We have been successful in doing so previously, but we decided why don't we take our solution to every ecosystem or every chain this time and run everything which we consider the governance to be on one chain, i.e. Ethereum, and that's what we're going with right now, right?
mm,
So how Mobland GameFi 2.0 works is basically we're introducing novel cross-chain communication technology that enables almost sharding-like mechanisms, which allows Mobland to operate cross-chain. So basically, you as a player or as a participant in the GameFi will be able to stake on the Ethereum network and generate in-game assets, in-game NFTs on multiple chains, such as BNB chain, Avalanche, Polygon, and multiple EVM compatible chains, followed by Solana later. So over
mm,
here, we're pretty much capturing the user base from multiple chains, as I mentioned. And that is the biggest thing in GameFi, because what we're noticing right now is there's two different demographics. One is the DeFi GameFi crowd that's always pretty early to adopt high risk appetite, and they love trying out new technology and new ideas. And then we have the gamer community. The gamer community just wants to game, right? They want a very pleasant experience, they want a very fun experience. GameFi DeFi users want the same, but they, like I mentioned, they love adopting early ideas. And I think a lot of our community, if I'm not wrong, is definitely the GameFi and the DeFi users. They're very well versed in what we're building and what we're creating, at least out of everything that we've shared. And we see a lot of research happening in the communities. We get tons of DMs. In fact, now we're even getting emails about questions about the tech we're building. And this is what we're excited about. Mobland is focusing on the infrastructure first, because we do have a lot of projects and institutions that have reached out that will be utilizing this as white label solutions as well. So we're building sustainable economic engines for GameFi 2.0. We just don't want it to be, hey, let's just get a game and let it run for like 3 months and then we'll think about the rest later. No, we really wanted to bring a very, very strong foundation which can be utilized across multiple ecosystems. Because I think it's one thing to have gameplay on one chain, but it's going to be a totally different situation when you have governance on one chain but the gameplay is happening on multiple different chains, almost sharding like, and it brings in a lot more complexities besides just the technology that is needed for it. So that is what Mobland is focusing on right now, and we've been we're pretty much ready to launch the first cross-chain portal, which works through Ethereum staking and minting on BNB chain, which was previously BSC.
Okay, that sounds like a lot to think about already.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting actually. If you think about it, it goes beyond just I mean, the vision here is multitudes kind of uh beyond just a game. Is not just one game and then having two or three more in the pipeline. It's kind of like what runs under it, and how to kind of spread across the different chains. I think it's very ambitious and
Thank you.
admirable at the same time.
Thank you. Yeah, we're working with a lot of traditional gaming studios and Web2 giants. They're watching very, very closely. We've been in close contact with them for since a couple of years, and last year and this year, working very closely with them. They really want, and this is the general theme that we're seeing overall in the traditional gaming studios, is they want to come and adopt technology that has been tried and tested, and they don't want to be the first folks to test it, right? So
Yep.
thankfully, in the Web3 space, we have a lot of alliances, and everyone's very eager and excited to participate in our cross-chain solutions. We call it Tesseract. And Tesseract is built, in collaboration with the amazing team from Wormhole. I'm sure you guys are aware
Yep.
about Wormhole.
Yep.
So we're using Wormhole contracts that we've integrated into our own Mobland contracts. And what this does is we have a message relaying system from one chain, i.e., one network, to the other network. This way, you don't have to wrap your assets. And this is important because sometimes when you wrap it and you're, having multiple different contracts from chain A, chain B, chain C, it could cause complexity in some of the functionalities, and the attributes could be a little
Yep.
shaken.
Yep.
By using the Tesseract portal, you're pretty much, you can keep governance on one chain without really inflating the asset class on a whole different chain. And you can keep the in-game assets on a much more, let's say, faster and cheaper and scalable network, right? And that's what we're doing. We really, we want to keep governance on the Ethereum network, and our core assets, our governance token, which is the SYNR, we call it the Sinner, and the synthetic Sinner. Both of these are on Ethereum, but the in-game assets which are coming up, which I'll be happy to share about, and we have a lot of articles. The two in-game assets that are coming right now are the Seed token and the Wheat token. This will be minted on BSC by staking on Ethereum, and our Genesis blueprints, which are our in-game NFT characters. These were held an IGO, and these are on the BNB chain. We did this along with Binance NFT.
I see. So actually, the I you know read through the white paper earlier on, and there are a lot of assets actually. So tokens wise, you've got. Correct me if I'm wrong. It seems like there are three. There's a sinner.
Uh-huh.
Then there's a liquid kind of version of that, and then there's also your wheat. Correct.
Yeah, so there's actually more. So let's discuss that about. Let's discuss about that briefly. So
Yep.
the only two live assets on fungible tokens, which are the FTs right now, is the Sinner, the SYNR, which is our main governance token, and we've got S Sinner, which is the synthetic Sinner. So the
Okay.
reason we offered S Sinner is because S Sinner can only be sent to whitelisted contracts within our gaming ecosystem. It is not an asset that can be transferred from wallets. It is not an asset that you can create a pool and trade on exchanges because it's whitelisted. So this was done to really try and focus on a sustainable staking model, which we introduced, where you can stake your Sinner and you can earn yield and farm rewards. We didn't want. We've seen this happen too many times where there's really high APYs. People get amazing rewards, but a lot of it is bounty harvesting. They just unload the rewards on the community members, and that's not fair. So what we did is we introduced a lockup mechanism where anytime you accrue rewards and you claim it in Sinner, your rewards get locked up for 12 months. And while they're vesting for 12 months, they are also earning a yield at a weight of 2.0, which is the highest weight we have on our staking pool. Now, if you want to claim your rewards immediately, you can claim it in synthetic Sinner. And the ratio of synthetic Sinner and Sinner is 1-to-1. Now, this synthetic Sinner can be used in our Tesseract portal. So you can use Sinner to stake in the Tesseract portal and mint in-game assets or in-game tokens such as the seed token on BNB. Or you can use synthetic Sinner in Tesseract portal, and you can swap that synthetic Sinner for the seed token on BNB. So I know it might sound a little complicated. It probably is a little, but once you read through the documentation, we are breaking it down and trying to be very concise and put bullet points there. What we want to do is really not bring a lot of complexity in, but with the whole novel tech and idea of the cross-chain solutions without having to wrap it and bridge it. This is something pretty new, and we are going to do our best to keep sharing a lot of information, a lot of educational content to potentially make it a lot easier for a lot of the new adopters, because we don't want them to really focus on all the hard terminologies and hard concepts over the hood. Under the hood, it's a very, very complex solution that we're building, but over the hood, we want to make it a very pleasant UI UX system.
Yep. So I think this is definitely something very new. I don't think I've heard of anyone else doing this, because you're adding a whole kind of cross-chain feature. At the same time, you've got synthetic version of your governance token, right? Your Sinner, and
Yeah,
you're having that be able to kind of swap that over for assets on a different chain.
exactly.
That's a whole lot to take in, actually. But yeah, I'm sure the documentation is a lot more concise.
Yeah, and we'll continue to release a lot of documentation as time progresses.
Yep.
I'm of the view that in any development, be it in a game or any infrastructure, that good amount of complication is actually beneficial to the company. But of course, not to the extent at which people get confused. But I
Sure.
believe in games, it's actually quite intuitive. For gamers who participate in a lot of games or played games before on mobile or computers, I think the moment they see your UI and UX in game itself, it probably becomes intuitive already. Just that on paper, like how games have a lot of rules, right? Like if
Exactly.
you played like Magic the Gathering or like any MMORPG, the learning curve is actually really steep. But towards the end, it's like, oh, it's just this. It's like adding a skill point here, making a trade there, selling this on the marketplace becomes like seamless. It's probably like the adoption curve of like ETH when people got used to like MetaMask, they got used to like Ronin for Axie. I think that eventually people will get the better hang of it, and I think it will be good. The complication comes probably because there is multiple value points that I can see here. Is how you would continue to support. I believe you have an idea, probably documented somewhere,
Mhm.
on how to keep the value of each individual token up. Because I think we've witnessed companies like Axie. Um, I think they had an interesting start where they did a dual token model. They were, I think, the one of the few who introduced it at the start. But
Uh-huh.
here we see multiples of it. And it will be definitely interesting to watch how you can keep up all the different values, especially with an NFT Genesis character. But I'm looking forward to that because recently we've been looking really deep in the NFT space. And I
Uh-huh.
think this is probably one of the best, if not one of the greatest use cases that I have seen so far. Kudos to the team.
Thank you. That's awesome. And that's a very, very great question you have. But what we're focusing on more than creating, like holding, quote unquote, the value of these assets, is creating sustainable economic models and consumption for these assets. Because it's one thing to try hold the value, but what we're really focusing on is creating a whole loop, from start to finish, where you're not randomly inflating these assets, right? It sounds like, yeah, there's multiple assets in Mobland, but we've done that because we want to parse out the utilities of each of these assets. There's multiple game modules in Mobland. If we didn't have multiple assets, if one asset class is affected, it could affect the gameplay on a totally different module. And for that reason, we wanted to keep things separate. And we wanted to bring in multiple utilities and multiple consumption points for the seed token and for the wheat token. So basically, how it's going to work is once you stake your Sinner or swap Sinner on Ethereum, the Tezeric portal will help you mint seed on BNB. The seed will be, a universal token, which the seed will be utilized on, for example, BNB chain for now, and then Polygon, Avalanche, and so on, right? We're also introducing the wheat token. So you're going to use the seed token, and we're introducing, digital wheat farms, and you can take that seed and farm wheat token. And the wheat token has totally separate utilities in game for upgrading characters, upgrading your wheat farms, increasing productivity, increasing defense. There's a lot of things. Now, we're also, again, this is all fictional. I just want to say that for the community. We're also going to introduce Coca Labs soon, okay? And the Coca Labs will be potentially on a totally different chain. And for that, we will need another in-game asset, right? Because we want to keep these loops separate, but the consumption of these assets will be related. And these are the reasons we're introducing multiple assets, where the seed will be pretty universal. And after Coca, we're also introducing mushroom farms, right? So mushroom farm will be on a potentially totally different chain as well. So what this will also do is we're taking our gameplay, we're taking our technology to different ecosystems, but the existing users on BNB, as much as they enjoy it, they'll always have an opportunity to participate in the gameplay on Avalanche or in the farms in Avalanche. The folks from Avalanche and BNB will also have the chance to participate in Polygon. So we want to provide a lot of options to the user base and the community, because we're really aiming for a very, very high user base, given the talks and the partnerships that we have formed with, the Web2 gaming studios. They really focus in really high, daily active user and monthly active user, and we want to provide these options. And that thus we have introduced a multi cross-chain economy.
Okay. It is. I've not heard or done an AMA of a project with a cross chain like this. I think our viewers right now are probably a bit confused all over. I think we'll document those information and put it in the event chat,
Uh-huh.
and we'll do some documentation down for them, so it's easier for them to process as we go. Because not many of them have read through probably the whole white paper like how me and Jay has done. So one thing that I think is interesting for the viewers is to share a bit more about how the Genesis characters might work, because a lot of people are asking like, NFTs, what are the utilities these days? And for you to sell out on Binance and have like the number one all-time collection, I think
Uh-huh.
it's crazy. It's insane. I think the success, kudos to the team,
Thank you.
is nuts. And what we want to know is how do you actually create or even deliver so much value to an NFT in itself? I think this is something interesting people want to hear and view.
Okay, for sure. Let's talk about it. So we'll talk about the Genesis blueprint first, the collection that you just mentioned on Binance, and then we'll talk a little bit about the upcoming collections that we have that are very valuable assets for the GameFi 2.0 economy. So the Genesis blueprints are on the BNB chain, Binance, and those are going to be one of the main characters, the main collection that will participate in the PvP and the PvE, the battling, the raiding, the looting, the defending. So these are
Right.
not just PFPs that you're using as collectibles, but rather these are your actual assets that you own and you can deploy on in the game. By you can either use them to attack or defend. You can either lend them out in a mercenary system where you put
Mm.
it on the marketplace and people can utilize it for their gameplay. And of course, we're creating smart contracts that, from the revenue that is generated, there's going to be a payment method for the owner of the blueprints, which is the characters, and the user of the blueprint. So all of this will be automated. It's going to be a trustless system. The Genesis blueprints, which are again the mafia characters, will also be used to, potentially defend and attack weed farms and coca farms and mushroom farms. So this is where the looting comes in as well, where you'll be trying to attack and loot the yield from different syndicates, different players, different teams and guilds. And that's one thing we're very excited about because, we've been talking to a lot of guilds. We've partnered with a lot of guilds in the space as well. We're very excited to bring cross-chain tournaments and,
Mm.
guild wars as well. And these are the kind of, PvP modes where these Genesis blueprints will be utilized. Besides them being used in game as actual characters, they can also be used in the GameFi 2.0 module, whereas until PvP is not live, you can use your characters and stake them. Since the NFTs, you can stake them in the cross-chain solution and also start farming assets such as, the seed asset.
Mm.
And then you can use the seed to further acquire in-game assets. These will be used to make your characters better, more powerful, more attackable, more defendable. So there's going to be a lot of functionalities on these Genesis blueprints, and this is how we bring value to these. Because personally, we're very confident that these are going to be, highly utilized, not just in GameFi, but also in the gameplay itself.
See, so I'm hearing quite. It's actually almost as though you are creating a character that can traverse through different game modes that have multiple functionalities as like characters. So, for example, if you create like a MMORPG, if you have
Mhm.
a RTS, these characters will somehow be able to be plugged in into various games. Is that correct?
That's correct. And the Genesis
Okay.
blueprints will have access to specific special game modes, whereas we'll also have free to play characters, and those will purely be focusing on PvE. But the Genesis blueprints will get to participate in PvE and certain PvP game modes, which of course, there's higher potential for yields there, the higher potential for rewards, and there's higher potential for action in those modes.
Perfect, perfect. So
Yeah.
I do agree, and I do think that a very smart model these days is to have a free to play model where people
Mhm.
can participate without having NFTs. Because eventually, what good is a game with only 18,000 people? I mean, I'm sure you're aiming for like a million or 18 million people if you could, right? And
Sure, that's the goal.
limiting people to the only like NFT holders to playing, it may not be the best way to go forward.
Sure.
So I think you got a good model. I think so far what we've heard is quite pleasing to as a guild. I think we're definitely happy to participate. So far, what I'm also other interested in is actually guild wars. I think currently no one has held a guild war before. I think the closest we've heard about previously is like the Horizon. Um,
Uh-huh.
but haven't tried it yet. Haven't tried it. To be fair, we are looking forward to it because we actually have quite a few pro gamers in this space that we're looking to compete as well. So that will be interesting for us. Um, think like even a 50 versus 50 or 100 versus 100. That's insane. I think that's what we're gonna look forward to, whichever amount eventually you decide.
Yeah, that would
So
be awesome. We're very excited for that as well because we noticed a lot of the guilds that we're working with, they are from they're global teams, they're global players, and a lot of players come with their own strategies. A lot of players come with their own mindset, and add the GameFi part to it, add the DeFi part to it. We're very excited to see how these strategies change based on different guilds. Maybe some guilds will prefer certain modes, and they might be better in certain game modes. Other guilds might be a lot better in PvE. Other guilds might be better in GameFi. So this will be very, very cool and interesting to see once we kick this off.
yep, I'm looking forward to it. So No, that's true. I think you mentioned something about Genesis something pass, Genesis Sin Pass, was it?
The Sinner passes.
Yeah, the Genesis Sin Pass. It slipped my mind for a bit. Okay, this is the one you said that's really cool that's coming up that we should hear about. Maybe you can share a bit more.
So I'll just correct you there. So the Genesis Sinner passes were our first NFTs on the Ethereum network when we first started launching. These Genesis Sinner passes were fair mints, and you had to solve ARGs, which are like, fun, maybe sometimes hard, sometimes very, very hard and complex for the community. You had to solve puzzles, riddles, and you had to decipher code, and you would get a mint code. But of
I
course,
see.
these are also available on the secondary marketplace on OpenSea because they're an Ethereum asset. But what I was mentioning, along with the Genesis blueprints, is the upcoming revenue generating business licenses, which are the wheat farms. But we're going to have a lot more business licenses, such as actually the coca labs, the mushroom farms, and a lot more planned: churches, hospitals, strip clubs. So I won't get into all that because it could get very confusing, given you already warned me about the audience. So I'll just keep it to the weed farms, because I think a lot of people understand weed, and the turf. The turf is Mobland's land parcels. So what we've seen, happen previously all the time is we went through NFT 1.0, which were the PFPs, a lot of collectible speculation. Then we saw NFT 2.0 last year, which really evolved heavily, which was land sales. But as a team, and as creators and builders, we weren't very convinced with the utility of these assets. So we really wanted to introduce the 3.0, and we call this the revenue generating business licenses, and we're starting off with weed farms. So, in collaboration with Snoop Dogg, as we announced not too long ago on 420, we are launching digital weed farms. And these weed farms can be owned by individual participants, members, users, players. And you can take this business, which is a wheat farm, and bring it to Mobland's interface, stake it there, and you will have a lot of participants from which are the seed farmers that will come and utilize individual wheat farms and generate the wheat token. Instead of users coming on Mobland's interface and using Mobland's in-house pool, we're pretty much creating thousands of new individually owned yield pools, which are the wheat farms. So these wheat farms will be randomly generated with different attributes, different productivity, different defense, different HP, adaptability, and the seed farmers, which is you, me, and everybody else in the community, can go and choose which wheat farm they want to put the seed in, to germinate the seed, and to mint the wheat tokens, which will be used to upgrade your characters, for weapons, to upgrade farms, to attack, defend. And this is how we're creating, a whole economy where people can strategize. They can set their fee, how much they want to charge for the wheat farms. But to make it more interesting, we really wanted to bring immediate utility to Mobland's turf, which is the land parcels. So for you to operate your business, which is the wheat farm, you have to stake it on the turf. So turf owners can be the same as the wheat farm owners, or turf owners can be a whole different group of people. So the turf owners will come and place their turf on Mobland's interface. The wheat farmers will come and choose which turf they want to place or open their wheat business on. Let's simplify that further, right? And whenever you find a suitable turf, you can then opt. There'll be lease agreements. You can read through the agreement. If you like the terms, if you like the fee, you can click it, stake on it, and now your business, i.e., a wheat farm, is open for business. Once it's live, a lot of the seed farmers can now come and participate by farming weed. Now, you as a business owner, you're paying rent to the landowner, which is the turf owner. So that way, we're ensuring that there's immediate utility for the turf. The turf owner, the higher the yield that's generated in your wheat farm business, is better for the turf owner, because the turf owner is getting a fee or a share out of the revenue that is being generated in your business. So it's not just in the wheat farm's interest to make sure they have defenders using the Genesis blueprints to defend the wheat farms and not get attacked by looters, but potentially also the turf owners' interest to support the movement in defending the wheat farms, because if the wheat farms get attacked and damaged, the yield goes lower, potentially making less revenue generated for the turf owner themselves. So this is how we're going to see syndicates evolve. We're going to see a lot of collaboration between different gangs, different syndicates, and we'll see that on both sides, on the defense side, on the attack side. And we're going to have a lot of options for the daily users to choose which wheat farms they want to participate in to farm the wheat. I'll just stop there in case you have any questions, because I think that was a bunch of information.
That's super cool. That's all I have to say. I mean, there's so many parties involved. You've got your turf owners, you've got your business owners, and then you've got your seat owners. They got to choose, and then you've kind of the dynamic between all those different parties is basically your gameplay, where you have your people attacking, defending, the farms, right?
Exactly.
That's really really cool. Okay. I guess my question is for turf owners. Obviously you got different. I mean, I saw the trailer with the Shibuya district. Um, how does that? So different turf have different attributes. Is that right? So as a business owner, how do I decide where to put my where I want to open my business?
Okay, so I'll simplify it really, quite a bit, just so it's easy to digest. Think of a wheat farm. I'm not sure if all of you have seen wheat farms, at least online or maybe in movies. But let's think of the concept of greenhouses, right? So maybe you have, our turf has area based on miles and kilometers. So you're gonna have certain turf of size, maybe 100 kilometers squared. You're gonna have turf of 200. These are just random numbers I'm using for just display purposes. You're gonna have 300 kilometers square. You're gonna have the same with farms. You're gonna have farms with like 4 greenhouses, 10 greenhouses, 50 greenhouses, and so on. So since turf will be pre-randomized as well, and there's going to be different tiers that you can participate, less area turf, mid, higher, and there's going to be multiple levels.
Yep.
So depending on the turf that you own, maybe that turf can only fit 4 farms with 10 greenhouses, or 1 farm with 40 greenhouses. So now it's upon the turf owner strategy. Does it make more sense to have 4 farms, or does it make more sense to have 2 farms or 1 farm? And think of this with multiple different turfs that are being offered. And the same goes for the farms. If the farm owner has a high yield, a high production farm, maybe the farm owner has bargaining chips on the table and can take it to the turf owner, be like, look, I'm going to generate a lot more revenue for you than those 3 farms. So how about you lower my rent, and we can sign a lease agreement for 3 months or 1 month or whatever the time frame would be, and then we can also participate in the attacking and defending and generate revenue for both of us. Now we're all going to start with a certain tier of farms. As time progresses, you can upgrade your farms to have better defense, you can have better security, you can have better productivity, and you can increase the greenhouses on the farms too. So there's going to be a lot of functions from these revenue generating business licenses, which are the wheat farms, and the turf itself. And this is something that we're very, very excited about, because I think this will be very fun, not just for the gamers, but also for the GameFi and the DeFi participants, where it's not a simple, hey, 1-click stake and just sit back and watch. We want to make sure that the users are having fun, the users are engaged. And of course, there's a lot of folks in the community or participants that don't want to be there daily or don't want to participate. They can easily rent out their farms or turf in the mercenary system that we're creating. And other people or other members or players can help run operations on these turf and farms, and they can get paid quote unquote salary, but in in-game assets. And the farm owners and the turf owners can be considered, capitalist bosses that are providing assets to the wider community to use.
Okay. That me and Jared had to look at each other for a few times to understand that. So essentially, you are almost simulating a very real life scenario in terms of economics, right? Because people will then have to start thinking about which is the most EV move to make. For example, yeah, there's more to it than just, oh, I'm going to buy this piece of land, I'm just going to buy this land. And then, it's not as simple as it is because different turfs have different yield levels. And this is actually very interesting because I think a lot of projects who claim to be metaverses, I mean, to me, the definition of a metaverse is still arbitrary, right? But to me, it means the almost similar like simulation of our real life scenario. And when you bring such high detailed level of economics into the space, you you are essentially almost mirroring what it is like in real life. It's like
Yep.
now you have a
Yep.
house example. For simple analogy, you have a house. Different people can rent it for different like use cases, and different people pay different amounts for that because different businesses have different revenue models, etc. You're essentially doing that in a game. Correct me if I'm wrong. Is that what's happening right now?
Yeah, pretty much. You got that right.
Okay. So now I need
But
to figure out.
I also want to ensure that you don't have to go through all the complexity. There's also multiple different functions that are much more simplified that you can participate and start off with. But as you mentioned, everybody has a different description of the metaverse, and for us, the metaverse means highly scalable, right?
Mm.
And that's why we introduce a lot of these functions, a lot of these different tiers, a lot of these upgrades and qualities, because we believe in expansion and scalability, especially when we're introducing the cross-chain mechanics.
Right. Okay. We are gonna have to look into that really closely. I believe the moment you launch, there'll be a lot of different parties, whether it's guild, whether it's individual players. They'll be trying to figure out the most effective meta to enter the space.
Yeah.
I'm definitely looking forward. Like, I think games essentially, or MMORPGs who do well, generally have real life simulated worlds, even so to the extent of human behavior that psychologists can study. And I think this might have a good shot at it because the level of detail that you put into your economics must have taken the team like substantial amount of time. And not many games, sadly to say, in the space right now, have put that kind of detailed thought into it, which is why we see a lot of honest truths, a lot of Ponzi-nomics coming out rather than actual tokenomics.
Mhm.
So I am definitely looking forward to see how you balance it and push it out. I think if done right, could be one of the leading parties in the space for sure. And you've also got a lot of good collaborations to empower this world. I mean, essentially, a good metaverse is where people want to spend all their time in. And I think the whole concept of even like Mobland, because not probably all of us won't have the opportunity to be part of a mob, but having that in a metaverse, I think you've
Yeah.
given us an opportunity to experience what we could never have before. So I am looking forward to being a landowner personally myself, not just for Promisphere. We definitely tap into that. I'm no gangster, right, by any means, but like in the game, I don't mind being
Oh,
one.
we're buying some land for sure. Stanley, we're definitely gonna buy some land.
Yeah.
Awesome, man.
So
See, this is exactly what I was saying in the beginning. Like we are allowing global users to live their mafia fantasies. It's good to be bad, and you can do it in the metaverse. Why not?
yeah, it's true. It's true. I'm definitely looking forward to it. You know, we essentially as gamers want to immerse ourselves somewhere. I think Mobland will give me that opportunity. I might see you online as well, to be fair. And then one day we will chat and like, hey, is that you there? And like, yeah.
Yeah,
So
for
we definitely want to see each other there as well. Um, I think we've covered quite a bit of things today, actually. I'm going to have to find a way to summarize it for the users. I see some people in the chat helping us put some text there. But is there anything key that you want to highlight about Mobland that we haven't covered already? So I think you've covered so much. I think this is the first time at AMA we haven't received like a question. I feel like everything has been answered so far. You know, I'm not sure.
hopefully that's the case, and hopefully it's not too complex. you know.
We will summarize it, or we will find a link from you to summarize it because
Sure.
it's the most
I'll,
developed game we've seen so far, at least in terms of the thought process and the economics behind it. So it's definitely not going to be easy for sure.
Well, what
And
I'm going to do is after this call, I'm going to connect with you guys offline. I'm going to share some articles. I'm going to share some, posts that we have on Medium Gravity as well. and I'll just highlight some points, right? That kind of has concise bullet points that talks about the things we discussed in the AMA today, and probably having that visually in front of you on paper should make it a lot easier to digest.
Yeah.
What we'll do is we will post a thread. Let us know. I think we can speak after the call. Definitely, we'll post a thread to explain, I think, how Mobland is, how to participate for different people, different parties, the different aspects to the game as well. I think that will be good for the community here. Yeah, I think that's mainly it for me. I heard quite a lot of things already, actually.
Yeah, I think one kind of last bit I want to kind of touch on again is how Promisphere and can participate in this whole the Mobland kind of metaverse. If we were to form a syndicate,
Uh-huh.
um, what would that look like? Do we have to buy? So firstly, as a guild, probably we want to buy some land. We want to have some businesses open, and then probably our scholars would be people that attack and defend for us. Is that how it would kind of look like?
It's totally dependent on your personal guild strategies, but yes, that's the very foundational level of it, if that's how you'd like it. I would highly recommend for you guys to cruise around our community as well, because we have very, very supportive and engaging members that are I personally believe and I discuss with all the time, and they really understand the core concepts and fundamentals of Mobland. So besides just myself and Tiki and the team that we've been talking with, we're always happy to help, but don't shy away from asking questions in the community, because people will help you instantly as well. The community members have already formed a bunch of very strong syndicates and those syndicates already have partnerships outside Mobland, and they're evolving themselves as well. So I think Mobland probably is accelerating, or is almost sort of a catalyst to create more guilds in the name of syndicates in the Mobland ecosystem. So, there's going to be multiple different strategies, from like characters for your scholars. As you mentioned, there's going to be turf, there's going to be the wheat farm businesses, there's going to be the cross-chain farming. So you can participate. You don't have to cherry pick one or two. You can, participate in the whole economy loop from start to finish.
Yeah, we're definitely gonna have to do a deep dive on this one. It's really complex.
Sure.
In a good way. In a good way. I mean, it's definitely a good sign for depth.
Yeah, for sure.
I think there's someone in the audience who wants to ask a question. Maybe we have him on just to pop a question.
Sure, let's do it.
Let's do it.
Hello.
Hello. Welcome, Toski.
Hi, hello guys. First of all, thank you very much for the nice session. I've been listening. It was very informative and fun. So thanks, Promisphere. Thanks, Devansh. Thanks to both of you guys. And yeah, that was me who was texting like, "Can I guys come to stage? Because I'm better at speaking than typing." So thanks for that. I appreciate it. Right. If you guys don't mind, I'm gonna have a piece of question for each party that we have in here. One for Promisphere fam and one for Mobland fam. Right. Yep. So for the Promisphere, because here's the thing, like one of the topics we discussed within the community in the Mobland is to make a Mobland a fun game, which you just want to play and then spend time. Because of its gaming aspect as well. Yeah. And right. I know, like from like my knowledge, one of the main visions of Promisphere as a guild is to act as a bridge between traditional and NFT gaming spheres. So that hence the question comes: what do you think? Like, what are the core ingredients or principles of bringing NFT gaming beyond the boundaries or the philosophy of just quote unquote crypto? And to make it a game played within the wider masses of the gamers. So I'm really kind of excited to hear your account on that one.
So the company itself here, actually, we are founded by all gamers. Essentially, my whole company, everyone is a gamer. And I think that NFT games have a very interesting output that has not been seen in traditional gaming. So let me explain this. When I talk about connecting Web 2 to Web 3 gaming, it is not so simple as in, hey, gamers in Web 2, try out NFT games, it's fun. Because that's simply not the case at the present moment. But what does NFT games or Web 3 game, blockchain games, provide that traditional games cannot. Let's think about it for a bit. Today, what's happening is this. In traditional space, all the game developers right now, think of who is the one actually making the bulk of money. Think of the finance, the circulation of the funds and everything. If you talk about game companies these days, usually only the developers make money. For example, if I'm World of Warcraft, I sell subscription packs or subscription services. If I am Valorant and I sell skins,
Yep.
the finance is singular. It goes downward stream and it never goes back up. Meaning to say the players never receive bulk of the money unless you're a streamer, of course, example, or you're a competitive player, right? I think what Web3 has done is it has allowed a version of circular finance that was never seen possible before in the traditional space. You see, today, if you think about it, why is DeFi an element of GameFi? Is because the inclusiveness of the community actually determines the prices that eventually the seeds, the weeds, the turfs will be valued by. You see, like if I talk about simple games that most people might understand, a simple mobile game like Mobile Legends, for example, to buy a skin of Mobile Legends, you need to spend $500. And who determines that price? The game companies themselves, right? They say you need to buy X number of dollars before you can even acquire this skin. And what happens to this skin? If I decide to quit the game, the skin literally disappears because it goes away with whatever the account was before. I can't just sell the skin like that, right? Now, in Web3, what happens is this. People determine the price of this skin, which means the games don't determine it. The developers are not the ones making the 100% of it. But what is happening that the money flow is circulating around players who are coming into it and people who are already in it. And it is up to the determinant of the players to determine this value based on how well they play and how well they grow into the game itself. Today, pardon me if I'm wrong, but if Mobland has a player base of 1 million versus 100,000, the value of the items in the game potentially could also be 10x, depending on the supply and demand. But this is also determined by the economics of the game itself. Now, all this conversation would never existed in Web2 gaming. So at Promisphere, what we do is this. We know that it is a very steep learning curve, whether it is for gamers, whether it is for crypto people as well, or anyone trying to enter the space. But what we are trying to do is to ease that pain. We are creating a software or a platform and infrastructure to onboard people in an easy fashion to educate the general public that actually Web3 gaming is not very different from Web2 gaming. It's just more nascent, right? And at the end of the day, when technology is more developed, what happens when internet was first, derived? People got confused, but after a while became a norm. I believe, or Promisphere believes, in a sense, that gaming in the future will not be split into Web2 or Web3 gaming, but it's just gaming. And games will simply pick the best infrastructure, whether it is the Web3 route or the Web2 route, depending on the build of the game, to develop forward. So right now what we're doing is we are sort of working with games to sort of clean up the space. I mean, there are a lot of games that come out for cash grabs and rugs, to be fair. And we want to eliminate that. That's why we work with games like Mobland, because we believe that they are here to stay, they are here to develop, and eventually they will also be the ones that cross the bridge of Web 2 to Web 3. So this is how, or our view on the whole space itself.
GG.
I'm not sure if I answered your question, but let me know if I did.
You did answer to it, like you delivered everything that I was expecting. I'm actually like I'm super happy I've been like very listening to your answer because I'm very passionate about that side of the things, because I really want the future of the gaming, as you've said, not to be Web 2 and Web 3, but it's just to be like a one definition, a notion where people like playing the games, but they're also have a reward or maybe an income as well for their grind. So if we could just bring and combine those two aspects of just the gaming and revenue generation in a health ecosystem together, that's a dream for me. As myself being traditional Web2 gamer, and I really love many aspects of it, but the fact that you cannot do anything, well, gamify type of activities with that, you can actually be banned in a lot of those games. So it's kind of not cool.
It's
So
true. Because RMT is not very favored upon in Web 2 gaming, right?
it's not, yes.
Yeah.
Like I've seen even my colleagues in the games that I play being banned for trying things. So Thank you very much. I really appreciate your answer, Fade. That was a really cool one, and I highly believe that the people like you guys, the platforms, like Promisphere, with the know-how, knowledge of the Web 2 and Web 3, honestly, is going to be the key, just to you know, let's say the making the being the bridge or crossing this gap in between those two hemispheres that we have right now, called Web 2, Web 3 in the future.
Yep, I
So that's
appreciate.
amazing. Thanks a lot.
I appreciate it. I think you have another question for Dev, right? So maybe you want to shoot your shot.
Yeah, yeah. Like he covers for you, Dev. So
And-
it's gonna be about our assets, right? I'll be specific about the transaction and interaction in between or among the different actors of the GameFi ecosystem. So what do I mean by that? Like we have a good number of, right, the interpart, let's say the contracted transactions, let's say in between the turf owners, farm owners, farmers, mercenaries, right? And among all those, like, it's just going to be a lot of transaction. So the question is, do we have like the game mechanics in our mind in order to enforce the payment that's going to be the part of those different deals and rentals? Like from the real life, if someone says that, okay, I can't pay you, just to put it in a very simple terms.
Yeah,
That's the
most
question. Yeah.
all of this, there's going to be smart contracts that will automate everything, and that's why I was mentioning earlier. It's going to be without the need of intermediaries. It's going to be a trustless ecosystem, and including the rental, the turf agreements, the farm agreements, the fee. All of this will be stated in the agreements that you, as an asset class owner, such as the turf or the farms, will create. So each time you create an agreement, you're practically creating a new lease agreement, and your lease agreement will be posted along with your, say, your turf or your farm on our marketplace. And this is a whole new interface that we've created, not the Mobland NFT marketplace, but our in-game marketplace that will specifically help run, operate, and function these different asset classes to coordinate and interact with each other.
Yeah, that actually answers my question.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Dev.
Sharing some sneak peeks of this interface. Let's see. Potentially this week, maybe.
Hell yeah, let's go.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. All right, like guys, I'm all right. I'm satisfied. Again, thank you very much to both of the parties, and I'm actually gonna stick around in the Promisphere because I really like what I heard from you guys. So yeah, looking forward for the future. I really do. Let's go.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I appreciate it. Thank you. So
Questions.
there's one more question that I would like to answer. Someone's pinging. The question's from Mr. Biz. He asked, I don't mind if I take your time. Did Promisphere participated in Mobland's strategic round? No, we didn't. We are relatively new guild as well. Slightly more conservative as well, to be fair. Because what we see in the space is a lot of guilds are deploying very aggressively. But we are quite stringent on our funding because actually we are a technological company and we're building infrastructure to onboard players from Web2 into GameFi. So while we build our competence as well, we will not aggressively keep deploying, and we're trying to keep the company lean because, I mean, it proved prevalent, right? In times like a bear market, I think it's good duty that we have kept very stringent to not ape into things randomly beyond what our capacities were. We didn't raise a huge seed funding round because ultimately we're building like tech, right? We didn't need to act as a VC, etc. So to be upfront, we kept it safe. We will participate in LAN, for example, like in Illuvium, went heavy in Axie as well, but more games that are more stable already post the seed round, etc. To be upfront. So the latter question is, you mentioned that you noticed there's an NFT collection under the name Arcana. Can you elaborate on the NFT functionality, utility, and how the name Arcana came about? Okay. So I'll answer the latter one first. So the name came about through almost, I think, 10 variations. To be upfront with you, we deliberated this over a month because we didn't want to get this wrong, right? Our naming process went as far as searching for the top 500 names on OpenSea, to the 500 goddess names, to the 500 celestial names, to almost anything you can think of, we have searched and found. But what Arcana really resonated with us is that actually a huge part of our community are pro Dota players. And Arcanas actually mean the highest level of skins. Okay, in a gaming world, it is almost not possible to have not heard about it. So we like the term Arcana for a few reasons. Arcana is also stemming from Arcanus or Arcane, which forms like magical power. The term Promisphere was determined because we wanted to be in a space whereby we knew if we so-called understate but overachieve, it is like fulfilling like a promised land. Because in a space whereby people say they could do this in 3 months, 4 months, 5 months, and up to 1 year they've still not delivered, we wanted to be the opposite. So we wanted to create a world that could evolve each time we deliver a promise to each time we mention it. And Arcana just fit the team really well because of who we believe we could be. I would show you a sneak peek of what our PFP will look like in this chat soon. I won't be able to show it now. We are developing it as we speak. I can guarantee you it is probably one of the best in the space. I can almost guarantee that. What is its utility is different. Okay. The utility of our NFTs is very different from the current space. I think a lot of them go for like merchandise. A lot of them go for like a manga, anime play, a branding play, which is something we are totally not. So we are actually building Arcana to be a gamer's identity, where we are able to make these NFTs change and grow with a gamer. So not necessarily am I targeting like the current NFT audience as we imagine, but I'm targeting more of GameFi parties. In fact, I'll probably share with Dev once we are more developed in the space. This Arcana will be able to almost track and display all of your in-game achievements in the past. We are developing something like that. That's all I can say for now. There are other things that I will release in the future, but for now, I think because there are a lot of copycats, I'm going to keep a lot of things redacted. If you want to be part of Arcana Prime, which is the first 1,000 that I'm going to give means free for, we can have a chat afterwards. But for the sake of this AMA, I think we got to cut short this. So yeah, we will leave it as this for now. I hope I've answered your question well enough. If not, I think I'll be holding Dev's taking too much of his time already. This AMA was supposed to be about them, right?
Oh no, it's all good, man. We appreciate sharing. I was very interested to know about it too. So I think Biz, or I could be wrong. Somebody asked a question. Great question.
Did someone ask another question? Let's see. I think this is it.
Cool.
Jared, do you have any other questions for that?
No, actually, I think he's covered a lot. It'll take some time to digest everything. No, I don't have any more questions.
Okay, I'm just gonna drop my Twitter link because I think in the future we will be holding more of our AMAs on Twitter. You can follow me here. I think Jared and Dev, if you want, you can drop your Twitter links as well on the chat. Let's see if we can connect with each other. I'm hoping to work very closely with the community. So if you guys have any feedback, any suggestions, do hit us up. I think Dev will probably link a link on their Discord. So if you want to head over there and ask them questions as well, I think we should open these channels up so we can work closely. I mean, that's the spirit of Web3 essentially, right?
For sure. And also we're gonna work together, create the Promisphere or Prominence Mafia on as the syndicate in the Mobland server. And while we're doing this, I'm sure there's gonna be a lot of collaboration between both our communities. And I'm pretty confident the Mobland community is always ready to help, and I have a feeling your community will be pretty much the same, given the conversations we've had with you guys. It's been pretty cool.
Thank you. I really love having you on board. Let's do more of this more often as the game develops and we have guild wars. Maybe Mobland will have a guild that we will go against as well one day. Just for fun, right? Just for fun.
For sure, there's actually a lot of guilds in Mobland that are formed by the community members that are very, very active, and I think those guys and girls will be ready to go hard. So yeah, I think there's going to be a lot of competition there. I'd just like to add one more thing, just one last comment, if that's okay. So Mobland, well, myself, co-founder, and a couple of other members from Mobland, we're gonna be in New York next week. We're gonna be there for the NFT NYC conference for the whole week, pretty much. But we are also our publishing studio is called Superpower Lab. So Superpower is hosting a cocktail party in partnership with KuCoin and KuCoin Ventures, because KuCoin and KuCoin Ventures are some of our very close strategic partners. So I'd like to extend this invitation to anybody in the community that's listening that might be in New York and would like to participate. Come meet us in person, come ask questions, and just come hang out. Open bar, okay? It's gonna be food, there's gonna be drinks. So it'd be cool to meet up and hang out. So if you'd like that, I'll drop the link along with my Twitter link. I'm not sure where I should drop that link, if somebody can point out to me on which channel, but I'll drop it there. And just try register for it. But if it's an invite only event, so once you register, we will receive an email. All I request you is just give your details about you're a community member or you're from a firm or a company, and then we'll put the ticket on hold as long as there's more tickets left, because it's a limited capacity event. I'll make sure that I pass on the tickets to you. So it'll be awesome to see more members from Mobland and from the Promisphere community in person in New York next week, if possible. And that goes to both of you as well. I don't know if you'll be able to make it, but hey, the offer is open for you guys.